Friends, thank you for being here today. Look at your retirement account today. Log in, look at the screen, and take a long, hard look at those numbers. Because if the events of the last 24 hours spiral exactly as they have been mathematically and strategically designed to do, what you see on that screen right now is a ghost. It is an illusion of wealth that will evaporate into the digital ether by the time the global markets fully digest what has just been unleashed. While the mainstream media anchors, the polished talking heads who have never seen a crisis they couldn't spin, feed you sanitized, focus group-tested talking points about measured responses, proportionality, and regional stability, the reality on the ground is terrifyingly different. You are being lied to by omission. Within the last few hours, a massive, unprovoked, preemptive military strike has struck the Iranian capital of Tehran and surrounding strategic locations. But here is the absolute truth. The unvarnished reality that the establishment networks explicitly refuse to tell you. This attack was launched at the exact moment that back-channel peace negotiations, meticulously brokered by Oman, were reportedly making undeniable progress. Omani diplomats were upbeat. De-escalation was actually on the table. This preemptive strike was not about national defense. It was not about securing borders. This was a deliberate, coldly orchestrated sabotage of peace. It was a blitzkrieg designed to flip the geopolitical chessboard and drag the United States military into a catastrophic, multi-front regional war. Let the sheer macroeconomic data sink in for a moment. Do not think of this in terms of foreign policy. Think of it in terms of your wallet, your pension, and your family's future. The Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the broader Caucasus region combined account for roughly 25% of the world's daily oil supply. A quarter of the blood that pumps through the veins of the global economy flows right through the crosshairs of this newly ignited conflict. We are no longer merely talking about temporary naval blockades or rerouted shipping lanes. We are looking directly down the barrel of the total, systematic destruction of global energy infrastructure. Refineries, desalination plants, crude export terminals, underwater pipelines, and supertankers. If this escalates into the all-out war that certain factions are currently engineering, energy markets will not just spike, they will completely break. We are looking at an instantaneous supply shock that will shatter the remnants of the global supply chain, send inflation screaming back into double digits overnight, and brutally crush whatever is left of the purchasing power of the United States dollar. The politicians in Washington, completely insulated from the economic consequences of their actions, are playing Russian roulette with your life savings. They have secured their wealth. Yours is left exposed on the battlefield. Do not wait for the government or the Federal Reserve to issue a warning they will never give. By the time they admit we are in a crisis, your wealth will already be gone. You must restructure your financial portfolio immediately. You must move out of fragile, hyperinflated equities, secure your hard-earned wealth in tangible assets like physical gold and silver, and prepare your household for an unprecedented economic shockwave. Listen closely to what I am about to tell you, because the window to protect yourself and your family is closing right now. Before we break down the actual anatomy of this manufactured crisis, I need to hear from you. Do you believe the official narrative coming out of Washington and the mainstream media right now? Let me know in the comments below. We need to see how many people are actually waking up to this deception. Sound off down there, and let's get into the facts. The narrative you are being spoon-fed every hour on the hour is that this is a localized conflict, a simple, unavoidable tit-for-tat in a notoriously volatile region. That is a lethal miscalculation, and believing it will cost you everything. What just occurred was a calculated blitzkrieg-style attack deep inside sovereign Iranian territory, and it happened for one specific dark reason: to corner a nation into a retaliation so massive, so undeniable, that it legally and politically compels the United States military to enter the fray. Understand the geopolitical chessboard we are currently playing on. There is an entrenched, powerful faction in Washington and Tel Aviv, a neoconservative and neoliberal establishment class that views actual, lasting peace as a direct threat to their strategic and financial dominance. They saw the diplomatic negotiations making headway. They saw the global community and, far more importantly, the American public, growing exhausted and weary of endless foreign entanglements. They saw the polling data showing that the American middle class is entirely sick of funding foreign wars while our own borders are open and our cities crumble. Their response to the threat of peace was to flip the board entirely. By launching a sudden preemptive strike while diplomatic channels were actively open and producing results, they have effectively backed Iran into a corner. Tehran now has zero political, domestic, or strategic choice but to respond with overwhelming asymmetric force. They cannot simply absorb a blow of this magnitude without losing complete face and deterrence capability. The trap has been meticulously set, and American troops, American naval assets, and ultimately American taxpayers are the bait. This is the classic Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. They create the violent problem, wait for the inevitable, explosive reaction, and then offer the pre-planned solution, which is always, without fail, more war, more debt, and more sacrifice from the American middle class. You, the taxpayer and the retiree, are expected to foot the bill for an agenda you never voted for and never approved. This brings us to the deadliest part of this strategy, the gray zone and the ultimate entanglement trap. Here is where the situation transforms from a foreign policy disaster into an immediate existential threat to the American Republic and your personal liberty. We are witnessing the weaponization of what military strategists call the gray zone. In the immediate aftermath of the strikes in Tehran, reports began instantly surfacing, deliberately leaked to compliant Western media outlets, suggesting this was a joint U.S.-Israeli operation. Stop and ask yourself, why would they immediately push that narrative if it wasn't fully authorized or explicitly true? To deceive, to weave a web of entanglement. If the public narrative establishes that America was actively involved in the initial offensive strike, it immediately gives adversaries the justification under international rules of engagement to target United States military bases scattered across Iraq, Syria, Jordan, and the Gulf states. Conversely, if the retaliation is aimed exclusively at the original aggressor, the United States military will almost certainly be ordered by the executive branch to use the sovereign airspace of allied Gulf nations to intercept those incoming strikes. The moment American jets and American air defense batteries engage in interception over third-party nations, America becomes an active shooting participant in a major regional war. The gray zone evaporates. Either way, the architects of this conflict get exactly what they desire: American blood, American hardware, and American treasure permanently committed to a Middle Eastern war of survival. The establishment in Washington is sleepwalking our military into a horrific meat grinder. They are bypassing the United States Congress, they are bypassing the constitutional requirement for a declaration of war, and they are completely bypassing the will of the American voter. They hide behind the guise of defending allies and regional security. But it is a lie by omission. It is a backdoor draft of your wealth to fund a war that will only benefit the military-industrial complex while hollowing out the core of the American economy. Now let's face the macroeconomic doomsday scenario head-on. Let us strip away the political theater, ignore the rhetoric, and look strictly at the brutal, unforgiving economic math. Because math does not care about political affiliation, and math does not care about propaganda. If the United States officially and deeply enters this war, the opposition has made it unequivocally clear: they will not hold back. This will not be a sterile, surgical conflict fought entirely with drones in empty deserts. It will be an absolute, visceral war for national survival, and their primary, most effective target will be the soft underbelly of the American empire, the global economy. Our adversaries possess sophisticated, swarm-capable drone and hypersonic missile technologies. They do not merely need to block the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point through which millions of barrels of oil pass daily. They can physically incinerate the stationary, highly flammable, and incredibly fragile targets of the global energy grid. We are talking about the systematic, coordinated destruction of oil and gas installations, cracking facilities, and deep water ports across the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. If 25% of the world's oil goes offline, not for a few weeks due to a strike or a storm, but for years due to catastrophic infrastructure destruction, the American economy will hit a brick wall at 200 miles per hour. This is not hyperbole. We are staring at the potential of crude oil spiking to $200, perhaps $300 a barrel almost instantly. Gas prices at your local station will not just rise. Fuel will be strictly rationed. The cost of every single good transported by diesel truck, which is to say everything on the shelves of your grocery store, your pharmacy, and your hardware store, will skyrocket overnight. Agricultural costs will explode as petroleum-based fertilizers become scarce. We will enter a period of hyperstagflation, zero economic growth paired with runaway, double-digit inflation. I want to pause right here and ask you directly, what are you seeing on the ground in your own communities? Go to the comments right now and tell me, how much have your grocery and fuel bills really gone up in the last year? The politicians in D.C. say inflation is under control. Are you feeling that? Tell me the truth in the comments because the media won't. In this scenario, the Federal Reserve will be entirely paralyzed. They will be trapped in a nightmare of their own making. They cannot print money and lower interest rates to stimulate the dying economy without immediately causing hyperinflation and destroying the dollar completely. Conversely, they cannot raise interest rates to 20% to fight the energy-driven inflation without intentionally triggering the deepest economic depression since the 1930s, bankrupting the U.S. Treasury in the process due to the massive interest payments on our $34 trillion national debt. Your pension, your 401k, the equity you have spent 40 years building in your home, all of it is entirely dependent on the illusion of stability and the continuous cheap supply of global energy. That stability is currently burning in the Middle East, and Wall Street is too arrogant to price it in. But the damage doesn't stop at the gas pump. We are witnessing the final fracture of the U.S. dollar hegemony. Beyond the immediate visceral pain of a market crash and skyrocketing pump prices, there is a far more permanent tectonic shift occurring right beneath our feet, a shift that will alter the destiny of the United States for generations. The world is watching this unprovoked aggression, and they are repulsed. The Global South, the rapidly expanding BRICS nations, led by Russia, China, India, and newly joined Middle Eastern heavyweights, are viewing this manufactured escalation as the absolute final proof that the U.S.-led financial and geopolitical system is a rogue, unpredictable, and dangerous enterprise. This conflict is the ultimate catalyst for the accelerated, irreversible death of the petrodollar system. For 50 years, America's superpower status has rested on one pillar. The world had to buy oil in U.S. dollars. That allowed us to print endless amounts of currency, export our inflation to poorer nations, and fund our massive deficits. But as the United States increasingly uses its military and its financial sanctions to enforce a deeply unpopular, establishment-driven conflict, sovereign nations are quietly and aggressively accelerating their plans to abandon us. They are dumping United States treasuries. They are building alternative payment rails to bypass the SWIFT system. They are actively signing bilateral trade agreements to buy and sell energy in local currencies, in yuan, in rupees, in gold. We are systematically isolating ourselves. We are turning the global majority against us through hubris and belligerence. Do you think the U.S. dollar can survive this level of global weaponization? Drop a yes or no in the comments and tell me why. This is the most critical financial debate of our lifetime, and I make it a point to read your insights. When the world no longer needs the U.S. dollar to buy oil to keep their lights on, a catastrophic reversal will occur. The trillions of paper dollars we have exported globally over the last 5 decades will come flooding back to our shores. And when those dollars come home, chasing the same amount of goods, they will create an inflationary inferno that will decimate the American middle class. This is how empires fall, not always by invasion, but by the collapse of their currency and the exhaustion of their people. The policies being pushed in Washington right now are accelerating this collapse at breakneck speed. This reality leaves every single one of us with a non-negotiable wealth preservation mandate. The mainstream media will do everything in their power to keep you distracted. They will feed you endless political theater, partisan bickering, and sensationalist distractions right up until the very moment the markets gap down, the circuit breakers trip, and the wealth destruction is permanently locked in. You do not have the luxury of ignorance. You have worked your entire life to build your nest egg, and you do not have the luxury of time to wait and see how this plays out. The events unfolding between Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Washington are the ultimate black swan event, and the shadow of its wings is already over us. You must take absolute, ruthless command of your own financial survival. No one is coming to save you. Not the politicians, not the central bankers, and certainly not the financial advisors who profit off keeping your money in the casino. You must get your capital out of the blast radius, reduce your exposure to fragile equities, liquidate the over-leveraged tech bubbles and consumer discretionary stocks that will be absolutely crushed the moment an energy shock suffocates the consumer. You must pivot, and pivot aggressively, into hard, tangible money. Physical gold and physical silver are not just alternative investments right now. They are vital financial life insurance policies. They are the only assets that have survived every war, every currency collapse, and every empire's fall for 5,000 years. They are immune to the printing press, and they are immune to the geopolitics of madmen. Protect your wealth from a geopolitical establishment class that has clearly lost its mind and its moral compass. Do not trust the reassuring, calm voices on your television screen. Trust the raw data. Trust the unforgiving lessons of history. The drumbeats of a catastrophic regional war are deafening to anyone willing to listen. Prepare your portfolios. Secure your hard assets. Brace for impact. The storm is no longer on the horizon. The trap is sprung, the lightning has struck, and the storm is here. If you found the truth in this video, the truth they won't air on cable news, you need to help me defeat the algorithm that suppresses this kind of warning. Leave a comment below, hit the like button, and share this video with your family and friends before it's too late. Tell me in the comments right now, what steps are you taking today to protect your assets? Stay safe, stay vigilant, and I will see you in the next update.